Hey guys, Nick here. Today, we will be seeing what length Morgan will go to try and kill Alpha, if Rick will be able to stop him like Daryl stopped Carol, or what is going to happen with the Whisperer saga in general. This is part 24 to What If Rick Spared Shane, the remake. Now, let's pick up where we left off with Mary, the new beta, telling Rick and his people that Alpha wants to see them at the border. But the talk there is going to be a lot different for many obvious reasons and some reasons I'm going to get into in a second. Now, who goes to the border to talk to Alpha? Well, I decided that it would be Rick, Lori, Michonne, Daryl, and Negan. Because, for one thing, I've used the leaders of the groups basically throughout the entire series, and I feel that these five would be the most likely to go. Now, Carol does not go, because for one thing, Henry is still around, and that means that she's not going to be there and try and shoot Alpha and everything else. And even if she did go, I doubt that it would matter in the long run. And Morgan's not going because of the fight that him and Rick had whenever Morgan tried to kill Alpha himself, much more successfully trying than Carol did, so to speak. And he's in the clear state of mind because of Benjamin, so bringing him along would do more harm than good. Kinda. Anyways, we soon enough get to the point of seeing Alpha and a few of her Whisperers at her side at the border, getting ready to talk everyone's ear off, so to speak. Like Negan. Anyways, whenever she brings up the fact that Rick and his people walked her land, this time it was only under one instance, because in the original it was during the fire, during the winter storm, and during whenever Michonne and Aaron walked. But this time, the fire and the missile crash was the only instance. So, does Alpha still want to take land? Yeah. Not because of just the one instance, but even though she killed 12 people at the Pike scene instead of the original 10 she'd planned on, the 2 extras were because of Beta's death. She brings this up once again and says that Mary has been now re-announced as the new Beta, but she would have never had to make that change had Beta not been slain by Rick and his people. And she knows an eye for an eye, but there needs to be way more punishment than just the death of 2 people, and she will be taking the same amount of land she did in the original. But before she can properly proclaim this and actually talk everybody's ear off more, Carl, Morgan, Rosita, Sasha, and Jesse, seemingly out of nowhere, show up with guns in their hands and load down tons and tons of bullets straight at Alpha and any Whisperer that's near her. This includes Mary and the few other Whisperers by her side. And this was all thanks to the bravery, anger, and smartness of Morgan wanting to do this himself. And everyone else followed because they all had a bone to pick with Alpha. Speaking of whom, Alpha is on death's door, obviously, and begins to accept her fate because all the Whisperers were like that. Because, they fear nothing, they're free, all that stuff. But just as Alpha's falling to the ground, taking her final breath, her finger hits the trigger of her favorite shotgun. And boom! A shot goes off, and who it shoots, it surprises everybody. Lori is shot straight in the stomach by this, similarly to how she was shot in the comics. So, she gets a comic-like death here. Even though I don't pay attention to the comics too often, I still have... I still know a decent bit of detail when it comes to them. Anyways, Lori collapses to the ground after the shot and takes her final breaths, and sadly, this does kill her. Lori has officially lived longer than any version I have made her survive thus far in all my wives. Rick, and Carl especially, react to this only for a second with utter disbelief, shock, anger, and sadness, before Rick shouts out in a voice that no one in the group has heard him do before. This yell is even stronger coming out of Rick's vocal cords than Shane, because this has hit on a very personal note. For one thing, it's bad enough that Shane died to these people, but to have Lori die in a similar instance when the battle had seemingly been won, now it's all or nothing at this point. And any Whisperer or zombie in the vicinity of the whole area of this borderline is instantly killed. Rick, Carl especially, along with all the other people in the group at this point in time, load down like crazy, not missing a single shot and unloading every bullet that they have at their disposal, because now there's no more playing around. And even if Alpha and the main Whisperers are dead, the threat needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with now. And after Alpha and all the Whisperers have seemingly been killed, Rick and Carl collapse to the ground in utter anger, disbelief, sadness, shock, any emotion that you can feel right now. Because Lori, it really just affected them on a personal note. As much as you would think that they were affected in the original story, Lori has lived far longer here. And now Rick and Carl are beginning to have the same sides of themselves as they did in the third season, because Rick, Carl, and everybody else really haven't lost many important people to them at this point in the story, except Shane, maybe. Anyways, also Enid, but that's kind of beside the point. Anyways, with that out of the way, the 10th season really does not have much more to offer. But does that mean that the story of What If Rick Spared Shane the remake is over? No. We still got the rest of this part and a part or two left to this tale. Because I kind of underestimated how much more detail there was to add. Thought it would be over either this part or the next, but that's beside the point. Anyways, Dante is still a thing here, and once he figures out that Alpha and the Whisperers are dead, he decides to go with his plan with the whole water thing, poisoning the water and doing his usual antics. But instead of Siddiq finding out, it's Carl with Siddiq, because I feel that with Carl alive, having him find this out with Siddiq, especially after saving him, would definitely be a nice twist. And with the recent loss of Lori, who also participated in the save of Siddiq, Carl definitely wants to make up for saving Siddiq since his mom's dead. He wants to honor her, much more so, and tries to kill Dante. But Dante picks up the nearest weapon, that of which being a knife, and similar to how Michonne did to the governor, stabs Carl straight in the eye. And this is giving him a much different version of getting his eyes removed, basically, than his original counterpart, who got shot in the eye by Ron. This time he gets stabbed in the eye like the governor. The governor didn't even lose his eye in this story. Siddiq, after seeing this, and definitely also wanting to honor Lori, rushes at Dante, a much stronger Siddiq this time, much more willing to fight. And with Carl slowly getting his composure back, albeit still stabbed in the eye, barely able to recover from that just now, both of them together kill Dante. And that's the last loose end of the Whisperer saga. Carl loses his eye officially way past the original's counterpart in terms of losing his eye. So this would be 4 seasons later than his original counterpart when he lost his eye. But anyways, that ties the rest of the Whisperer saga is officially over. And with that said, let's get into the small details left that we have to play with for Season 10, at least for this episode, because I'm not going to cover every single little detail of the rest of Season 10. There will be a little bit next episode, but anyway, Eugene and Stephanie still talk over the radio, and when Virgil makes his appearance, as I've done before, Rick is the one who will go with him to the island and be the one to make sure that he doesn't try anything. But since he just lost Lori after just losing Shane, once Rick starts to feel the slightest notion that Virgil is hiding something or planning on deceiving him or locking him up, because Rick, I feel, would be far more perceptive in the situation than Michonne was, especially after losing Lori and Shane. He would just kill Virgil right on the spot, which means that he would return and be back right whenever Maggie makes her appearance back with the group. I'll touch base more on that in a minute. Now, Ezekiel, Yumiko, and Eugene still go on their way to find Stephanie, or, the fake one, meet up with Princess, and get cornered by the Commonwealth. And that goes as you would expect, because, honestly, with this bunch of characters, there's not too much I could think that would change the story, other than Ezekiel playing more of his king role with Princess, rather than his original outing. He really didn't have too much of his king authority left, because he lost a lot of his people and Shiva. Speaking of whom, since Ezekiel's gone and Shiva's still around, Ezekiel leaves Shiva in the good hands of Jerry, who honors Ezekiel by taking good care of Shiva and making sure that nothing happens to her. And this is Shiva living a lot longer than her original counterpart, too. So, a lot of people are living far longer than I've ever made them in any of my stories. Now, on Rick's way back to the community and everything else, he comes across Maggie and her new friends coming back from their encounter with the Reapers. Rick is very happy to see Maggie again and lets her know about everything that's gone on, especially Negan and his redemption. But will it be easier for Maggie to accept Negan now, with Lori even talking? Or has Lori's death mean that Maggie doesn't really care anymore and will still have the same hatred for Negan? And how will the saga of the Reapers go in this timeline? That's where we leave things for the moment. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, there will be a episode or two left to cover the Reaper arc and then to touch base on the Commonwealth, which there won't be too much to cover. Spoiler alert. But I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless, and stay tuned for next time.